What's up? Olin has officially entered a new era this year, one that doesn't look or sound like anything it ever has before. Amidst this series going forward, we're going to get into all of the details of it. But this time I want to do something I've never done before. Because usually I go over lyrics of the songs themselves, but with this album in particular, I think it's important to go over the art before the music even begins. We're going over the cover art for my latest album, Will of the Strong. In the spirit of this particular season, we are going to be, maybe temporarily, but perhaps permanently, changing the name of this series from CD's lyrics to Word of the Strong. Here we go. This was probably the first time going into like the visuals of the actual album, the whole concept, where I actually had a concept in mind, an idea of what I even wanted to do to begin with. Like I knew the story that I wanted to tell. So with this album art in particular, the elements were always in the back of my brain. It was just a matter of how do I want to bring this to life. I should let you know now, it's AI generated.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yes, I know. And I've taken a pretty hard stance about AI in the more recent past, but I've also taken the stance that if it's a matter of I want this to be out there quickly and I want to be able to just release it to the world without having to wait on anybody else, that's more where my stance was at the time, and I have since changed my mind. As a matter of fact, by the time of this recording, I have spoken to my boy Danny Slab about doing his own version of the album artwork, and if it be in the form of a volume 2 or a deluxe version or a remix pack or whatever the case may be, there will be another cover art, and it will have been done by an actual artist, because usually it was just a matter of me throwing something together in like Canva or something like that. I went through a phase, I think it was a couple years ago at this point, where I just wanted to pump stuff out really quickly and just to see how consistent I could be in that way. And I think it worked for what it was. But with this concept in particular, I want to do it justice, and so we probably will spin the block, so to speak, on another occasion. The main two elements are, of course, the bison and the tornado, which is very interesting because I could not have planned to have as many tornadoes or tornado warnings as we have had leading up to the release of this album. So it made promo for it kind of easy, to be honest. The storm last night may have been my fault. And if that seems a little too far-fetched, you should also consider that the last song on the album is literally called Eyes of Tornadoes. It's hard not to see a correlation there, you know? I had known for probably well over a year at least, or maybe the whole year and a half that if this whole album had even been in production, I knew that I wanted to have those two elements. The story goes, and some people may not necessarily know this, but bison are a unique creature in that when every other animal runs away whenever they see a storm coming, or specifically a tornado, bison are notorious within the animal kingdom for running directly into it. The mentality perhaps being that instead of waiting for it to come hit them, they run straight into it in anticipation that the pain and the chaos will only be temporary, instead of just waiting it out. That's kind of what the premise of this album was intended to be, or at least how I intended it to be. And so this album definitely explores themes of ambition and discipline and things of that sort of nature. And so I wanted the album art to really symbolize that. Plus, this particular land creature with the tornado are both very reminiscent of Kansas in particular. I didn't necessarily come in expecting to make a very Kansas kind of album, but it ended up kind of being that. Despite being a metalcore project, it definitely feels very Kansas in a sense, especially with tracks like Eyes of Tornadoes and Too Far Gone, with a bit of a country twang about it. I mean, I did grow up on country music. You can't be raised in Kansas and not be raised on country. You can't be from the same town that Travis Marvin is from and not grow up on country music, you know? But like my heart has been heavy for the hardcore scene in particular. And so I wanted to explore that sound and that community and that genre, I guess. And I think with what we were going for, what I was going for, I definitely kind of somewhat nailed it anyway. You know, I wanted to bring the spirit of 90s hardcore back and just bring it with my own little flair, and hopefully I achieved that. And going forward, as we get into the songs, we'll perhaps see how well that actually panned out. So maybe you'll stick around, maybe you won't. Either way, that's the album art. So if you haven't heard it yet, definitely go give it a listen. Because even before the music even starts, this is a concept I'm very proud of. So perhaps we'll delve more into it later on.